Hej og velkommen til Ord Møl med mig, Anders Aarhusen, og med
Niels Kristian. Anders, jeg ved ikke, hvordan du har det, men det her det er jo sådan et forår, hvor man egentlig bare har lyst til at drikke Imperial Stouts og Barley Wine og sådan noget. Det er mandag i dag, hvor vi optager. Det har været solskin. Det har været 6 grader i Silkeborg.
Jamen, jeg tror, vi startede koldere i Fredericia. Jeg har været i skoven hele formiddagen. Det var, jeg havde simpelthen ikke tykke nok sokker på, selvom jeg havde taget et par gode støvler på, så det har været fodkoldt.
Ja, det må man godt nok sige, men de siger jo, det vender her, når det her afsnit det udkommer, så skulle det begynde at komme over 10 grader. Det glæder vi os da til.
Jo, det er stadig Imperial Stout, hvad det er jeg sikker på.
Jamen, det er det jo altid.
Det er jo det der øltid, altid stout-tid hele tiden.
Et eller andet, ja. Det er. Anders, vi har jo et pænt godt program i dag, tænker jeg, at vi skal igennem. Men jeg fristes til at sige, inden vi overhovedet kaster os ned i det, og inden vi kaster os ned i siden sidst, at vi har jo fået en forespørgsel på, om vi vil snakke om MBCC. Og det er jo sådan, at vores næste afsnit efter det her, det udkommer den 9. maj. Så der snakker vi selvfølgelig om noget af det, vi gerne vil opleve på MBCC. Bare lige sådan for, at den er deklareret.
Naturligvis, og så tænker jeg, at vi gør som sidste år. Vi optager nogle små snaser rundt omkring i København, og så kommer det en gang efter.
Det tænker jeg også, og så tænker jeg også, at midt i rød session, der mødes vi samme sted som sidste år, lige midt i det hele.
Lige præcis.
Så den er også sendt ud til dem, der har lyst til at mødes med os. Men Anders, siden sidst?
Jamen, jeg har ikke sådan det store. Jeg har været til noget konfirmation og sådan noget. Der var gjort en hæderlig indsats for, at der skulle være IPA, og det var der. Det var ikke noget, man faldt bagover af. Solidt og godt. Noget svensk.
Ja.
Fra et halvstort bryggeri. Det fungerede ganske udmærket. Det kom jeg igennem en konfirmation på.
Men det er jo også det der med, nogle gange, så er det jo ikke øllen eller øltypen, så er det jo lidt selskabet også, ikke? Altså, der er en øl til enhver lejlighed, ikke?
Bestemt, og selskabet var godt og hyggeligt, og der var havudsigt hele dagen, så der er ikke noget klage over.
Var du ude at sejle?
Det var jeg ikke. Jeg var i en kajakklub, men
Nå, okay.
der var et sejlstævne med sejlbåd lige uden for vinduet. Det var så fint.
Ja, det lyder da meget godt. Jamen, jeg har faktisk heller ikke været ude at lave sådan noget til nogle ølevents eller noget, men jeg er nødt til at sige, jeg har sådan dykket lidt ned i et bryggeri, som det er ikke nyt på den måde, Hop Hooligans fra Rumænien, men jeg har smagt både noget humlet og noget fadlagret sort og noget smoothie, ice cream smoothie sour fra dem, og alle 3 dele har været virkelig fantastisk.
Det lyder rigtig lækkert. Jeg har set i hvert fald du med stouten og med noget rigtig smoothie, halløj, du havde i glasset. Det så...
Ja.
Det lignede det hedder jo, altså smoothie.
Ja. Ja, og den ene værre end den anden. Den ene, det var sådan en, hvor der var blandt andet banan i og sådan noget. Og så, jeg tror, det var bananen, så gav den sådan nogle... Forestil dig, at man hælder... Kan du huske, da man var barn, så kunne man finde på at blande sodavand og vanilje i sammen, eller sådan noget, fløde eller et eller andet.
En float?
Ja, og så gav det sådan nogle store bobler, sådan, der rigtig var fedtet på overfladen og sådan noget.
Ja, jeg kan godt huske det svagt.
Ja, det forestiller den her bananfarvede smoothie ting, og så var det bare sådan nogle bobler sådan på 1,5-2 centimeter i diameter, som bare blev stående med den der fedtede hinde på. Der var sådan noget ispulver i øllen, simpelthen soft ice pulver, men det smagte helt vildt godt. Det så forfærdeligt ud, det smagte mega godt.
Jamen, så er det jo så alt jo godt. Man kan jo servere det, ved ikke, i en kop, så kan man ikke se, hvor grimt det er.
En stein med låg, så du ikke kan se det. Ja. Nå, Anders, nok om det, og siden sidst, altså jeg har også smagt på nogle gode øl, og der er begyndt at være lys nok til at tage billeder efter spisetid udenfor om aftenen og sådan noget. Det er jo også rart nok.
Det er dejligt.
Ja, men skal vi ikke bevæge os over til det faktisk skal handle om?
Jo, det synes jeg bestemt. Vi er jo slet ikke alene.
Nej, og vi skal jo til at snakke skolelærer engelsk.
Det siger du jo, så vi kan da prøve.
Skal vi skifte over til det?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we have to say welcome to our guest today, and our guest is none other than Steve. And Steve, I always pronounce your last name wrong, I think. What is your last name?
I think it's likely that you pronounce it correctly and I pronounce it wrong, if I had to guess. But it's I was raised Steve Rold.
Steve Rold. And I think in Denmark it would be Rold because of the town, the little town or village in northern Jutland.
Right, exactly. That's where my father's side came out of. And they showed up in Iowa, and there were too many Jensens, I think, was the deal, that they weren't related to and didn't want to be associated with. So they said, you know what, we're going to go by Rold. And that's where they'd come out of.
So everybody knows you in Iowa if you have the last name Roll.
There's very few, yeah. If you're Rolled in Iowa, you probably share a family limb somewhere on the tree, you know. which is good and bad, I guess. You can't get away from.
You ended up in Denmark somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, we have to say, if you haven't figured it out now, it's Steve, the brewmaster at Fanø Bryghus.
Yeah, and I appreciate the switching to English for me. Trust me, your listeners will appreciate that as well, because once you hear me speak Danish, there's not a lot of communicating that occurs.
So no risk of us switching around. I noticed I did that when I visited Fanø last time when Graham
if
from
in me, we might try it.
It's Graham from Glass, and somehow we switched around. So we figured out now I was speaking English and he was speaking Danish. So weird.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
No,
since he's from Scotland,
that
makes it's perfect sense. Everything ends up a bit down at the Fanø Strong Beer Festival.
Yeah, and actually, Fanø Strong Beer Festival, it was such a nice event. We talked about it some episodes ago, and I still remember it as being a perfect Saturday.
Yeah,
we won the lottery when it came to weather.
Yeah,
everything just went so smooth. The breweries all behaved real well. Like, it was just the people were great. Like, we got real lucky, I think. Winds were in our favor all day. So we're hoping to do it again, get the same kind of luck next year. But it was fantastic, and we're always happy when. We had no idea how many people could fit in the brewery. So when we sold the tickets, we kind of we did it last year, but we increased the number. So we were really concerned about having too many people, but I felt like it was almost just perfect. And I've only heard good things, which is really rare. Normally you have 2 or 3 things come through that are, you should have done this or that, but I just haven't heard a single thing that was bad. And hopefully we can trick them again next year. And what we talked about it, March?
Yeah.
March 7th and 8th.
7th and 8th,
yeah. Put the plug in now before everyone tunes out.
Yeah.
Come to Fanø Strong Beer Festival. It'll be a just as good a time as last year, and even warmer because it's a week later.
Maybe it will be a blizzard or something.
Yeah. That's what we figured. We were going to roll the dice on the weather regardless with a festival that early. But
yeah. But actually, I think when you said it, people in the brewery, I think actually there was a bit more space this year than last year.
Well, we got a bigger tent, and then we did those the tastings, and what that did was it would take 40 or 50 people out of circulation for an hour. And so they would go up and learn about Stouning whiskey or Fanø rum or Clyke yeast, and then they'd come back and rotate out. I think that helped with the foot traffic quite a bit. But the bigger tent, and it was real cold that first year, so everyone wanted to be in the brewery.
Yeah.
So, but more people outside this year.
And I completely forgot to go to the tastings, but were they a success?
Oh yeah. I believe that's something we're planning on doing again. Stouning is the guy from Stouning. He said he'd love to do it. He had a blast. Well, this year we had Lars. I call him Clyke yeast. Lars Valsgaard. What's his? I
can't remember, but we know who he is.
He gave such a excuse me.
Gashole. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. And he gave such a great presentation, both to before the brewery or before the festival to the brewers, and then at the festival to home brewers and people that were interested. And that's part of what we're trying to really develop with the beer festival, is also have a component where people can learn about beer, or kind of leave not only full of beer, but like a little fuller of knowledge and experience when it comes to knowing what they're drinking. So whether he comes back or if we find some other people in our travels to come and kind of tell us what we don't know, you can look forward to more of that once we have a little more space here at the brewery too. So
yeah. Speaking of being full of beer, shouldn't we pour something in the glass?
I opened it during your little intro there.
Yeah.
I'm already. You guys got to catch up now.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Yeah. Are we all drinking the same thing?
I think so. It's the Red Wedding 2024, right?
24.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, Anders, will you do some sound?
I'll try.
You know? For those of you listening at home, Anders has just poured the perfect beer.
But perfect sound because it's half a liter, so it just keeps on going.
It keeps going. Yeah. 30 seconds of glugging.
Yeah.
I think what's the word for that? It's popular on YouTube somewhere. ASMR, and I'm not sure what it's short for. Yeah.
ASMR, where they're just making voices, like real soft noises and stuff.
Yeah, but this is the beer ASMR.
Yeah, that would be my podcast, a beer ASMR. Yeah.
Can I be part of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it smells so nice. Again.
Sounds of beer.
So
no one's really tapped into the sounds of beer. Everyone's always into the flavors and the appearances,
But we actually sometimes talk about the sound of a bottle or the sound of a can. It sounds so different.
Yeah.
Also, when pouring, if it's a 33 centiliter long neck or it's a half, yeah. These make great sound. I think it's Urbeck as well make great sound when you pour.
Yeah. They got the big bottles too.
Yeah.
So
this smells incredible.
It came through with a lot of chocolate and just a hint of like that coffee. I think comes through really nice this year too. I gotta say, the guys, I don't get to brew the beer as much as I did previous, but the guys are doing just such a good job of taking care of the recipe and doing the cellar work on this beer, and I'm really happy with how all three of them turned out. One thing I've learned with the red weddings over the years is maybe each year isn't always a step forward or a step. It might change a little bit laterally, or people have their favorites. But I do think this year, like all three of them, I was really happy with their continued iteration. Just across the board, I think my guys are doing a great job. So I don't know if they listen to the podcast, but at least if they stick around for 15 minutes, they'll hear. Before I start just ramming on things I don't like about what they're doing. So.
Cheers. I think we need to say cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. We always say this is a beer for sharing. So even though we have our own individual bottles, we are sharing the beer. So.
We are, and I have to have a second sip. Cheers. So this is it's kind of a classic now. Is it 6th or 7th year with this beer? There was an 18, right?
2018 was the first one that came out.
Yeah.
February 2018. So yeah, this will be 6th, 7th.
Yeah. 7th. Yeah.
What's the math on that? Yeah, right.
It's the 7th one. Yeah. It's amazing. And actually, we had the 2018 vintage at the Strong Beer Festival. I actually think the bar guy said it was the last bottle that we had something from.
I have a couple, but that was the last. We had one case in the cellar, and we said we had started saving cases from previous batches with kind of the intent of like setting up vertical tastings. And I just saved too much beer, I think, like for what the interest is in those type of things. I mean, if you can find 20 people that want to sit through a vertical tasting, that's probably everyone in the town, So it's not like I need 30 cases of back issue beer. But we've decided to make those available because they're still pouring so nice. So we made them available on our website or our whatever it's called, the place where you sell beer online, your web shop.
Yep.
And then here at the brewery, so they are starting to trickle out into the world a little bit more. But those old ones, they hold up pretty good. For we weren't doing things quite the same way we are now. We've learned a lot over the last 7 years on kind of how we treat our barrels and how we empty and how we go about treating the beer. But it's it's pretty good. It's pretty good beer that's held up over time. I mean, I was looking at the original recipe for it, kind of prepping for the podcast, and I know we made changes to it, but we must have then changed back because the current recipe and the original recipe, at least for the grain bill, are spot on for what this year's beer was and what the original 7 years ago. We've changed our gravity targets a little bit and tweaked some volumes. But other than that, it's the same beer. So it's kind of amazing that out of the gate we just kind of struck it rich a little bit.
And how come it ages so well since it has got lactose, and lactose is known for being bad storing?
It's a very small percentage of lactose. If you do the math on it's under 3% of the overall grain bill.
Yeah.
But I've heard you can't barrel age lactose, and I mean, we do a really nice. I think Gorm in rum barrels is really nice, and that has a far higher percentage of lactose. Yeah. So I haven't seen it on our side of things, and we do some long aging, like a year plus on most of our barrels, just because we're so slow about getting them pulled out and filled up and all that other stuff. It's we're not turning things in 6 months around here, but I haven't caught any kind of the negative side effects of lactose, but maybe we're just getting lucky on how.
Could it be the red wine barrel and the lactose? Because lactose in my mouth, it's some kind of, it turns sour in some way if you age it too much. Do you think that the acidity from the red wine and the lactose actually does something magic to each other?
Man, I think when we came out with the beer originally. Boy, that was real early in our barrel aging. We'd maybe done whiskey rye and one other beer. And then this one had sat forever, and who knows how it was going to turn out. And I just know that first pairing, and there is that acidity in red wine, the tannins. This was not a new barrel. This was like what we had kind of sitting around. We had 2-3 red wine barrels. But when it came out, it was so good. It was just still so rich. It didn't have any kind of off kind of quality, no sourness, except for what you would really expect with red wine. And maybe it does something to accentuate that red wine character and dance with it a little bit. But it also works really well with the port wine. That was one when I tasted the dryness of red wedding, I thought, about a year or two later, I really started getting into port wines and learning more about those. And we went to Porto, and I just got absolutely hooked on them. I thought, well, this is what this beer is meant to be in, is these white port barrels. And so we got the white port barrels, and we're jumping ahead in the story, but that turned out well. But then we did the black wedding, and I was like, oh, that's why people do whiskey barrels. It's because it's really, really good. And so I'm kind of a slow learner on that side of things, I think, but I've always wanted to try something new. And so we did. And then the newness of that kind of led to more people doing red wine barrels, I think. And
there's just a machine talking to Steve.
Apparently we need to print something at 8:30 tonight.
So, Steve, if we talk about the red wedding in 2018, what was the idea behind the beer in the beginning?
The idea. I'm going to let the machine cut, and then I'll come back to you.
So, Anders, skål.
Skål. The idea, the beer originally started, and there's going to be someone to come collect these in a second. So I'll just. The beer started originally as a collaboration. We brewed a beer with a group called Howling Monkey. Yeah. And if you guys probably are familiar, but they haven't been around since before Red Wedding, because by the time we brewed it, and we released the beer, and that was a beer called Take the Black, and it was based on a mutual love for Game of Thrones, mutual love for these cakey imperial stouts that everyone was jokingly calling pastry stouts, which is now just what we refer to them as because there's no more apt term. But we released half of it as Take the Black. And then by the time it was ready out of barrels, Howling Monkey was no longer a thing. They had ceased operations. And so we didn't quite know what to do from that standpoint. And so we released it as Red Wedding, and never did we think we would do it again. But then we changed the recipe. We went right back into the red wine barrels. And then it got such an amazing response. And we were like, okay, well, we'll see what the next round is. But we never thought that we would be like, this is a series. This is going to be the same beer over and over again. Because you blend barrels and I don't know, you the minute you get locked into, I need this beer. I'm feeling those pains this year. It's, we got to have this beer now. And this, I now have 15 barrel aged beers that I'm supposed to get released this year. And boy, that's kind of a headache. That's a bit of a, slog. But it's turned into one of these things that now I can't believe it's been 6-7 years on the whole thing that we've been able to do it. Because the second time it was like, oh my God, we did it again. We tricked them twice. And then we started expanding it. We were really cautious about it. We were, one tank, and then 2 tanks, and then we did White Wedding, and then because what would be a good example? Even more Jesus. There's even more. There's how many variations did we come up with on that one, right?
I actually had one some years ago. It was Harlan's Even More Jesus. It's a red wine barrel version. It was amazing. That was my first red wine barrel aged imperial stout.
Okay, so he does that, and he spreads that across the board. But no one ever expects a yearly Even More Jesus Harlan release. No. So he's found a way to make one stout into 15 stouts, and he can just, clear his mind of having to brew 15 individual beers, which I love. And I think the way you'll see Red Wedding, White Wedding, Black Wedding, Yellow Wedding, whatever kind of wedding is in the future will be as a barrel release, because this to me the original beer is the collab. And if I can ever talk those guys into coming back and brewing with us, we'll brew the original. We'll release the non-barrel. Everyone's like, you should do the non-barrel aged one. But I will only do it if they come back and brew it with me. That's kind of my rule there. And then we'll continue to be the stewards of the Red Wedding, Black Wedding, White Wedding, etc. Releases until then.
That will be fun. At least one of them is still somewhere in the beer industry, isn't he?
Yeah, Matt still is. Yeah. He's still rolling around. And I talked to him the most about it. And Peter, he's working as a not postman, but he makes the sausage, and he's a charcuterie. And yeah, he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then you just won't hear from him. And it's like, you got me again. You got me again, Agreeable Pete. So we're just got to track all 3 of them down and get them all here for a day of brewing at Fanø, which I think can be done. We were very close. We were very close last year. But by the 10-year anniversary, I think we should get everyone here.
Sounds like a great idea. And I'll just call me. I'll be there for brewing the yellow wedding and the barrel filling.
What kind of barrel do you want that to be? What
I have Sauterne barrels from France.
That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, but if you can find some,
we'll come back to that. That's not a bad idea.
No.
I might steal one, but we'll see. I'm gonna break some news to you guys, and next year's Red Wedding is going to be a little lower in total volume and a little later release, because we had some. I didn't realize this when we released the beer this year. We released black and white because it's not easy to. We're a very small brewery. For those, we're not. I think people who think of breweries, they think of like Carlsberg sometimes, or big breweries that have tons of space and tons of tanks to just be doing whatever they wanted. Fanø is not that. We're very cozy, and so turning these beers, which can take half of our cellar, it takes a little bit of time. And so we released white and black wedding first, and we were met with public outrage about how we weren't releasing red wedding, because red wedding was not on. We didn't say anything about red wedding when we released the other two. So everyone rightly assumed that we were never going to release red wedding again. But until we corrected them and said red wedding is coming, it's several weeks down the road. But what we've run into is we needed to make space for a beer festival, and so I needed to get rid of some barrels. And now we're running into getting those new barrels delivered and filled, and it's going to be April, May, June before they get filled. So it'll be next fall. So it's more like an 18-month break between next year. So when you don't see it in February or March, don't despair. It's coming. But it's going to be a little bit of time. Yeah.
So you said that you hadn't expected it to be a series of beers, but the base beer must be so good, since you can do these different barrel agings and keep coming out with good results. I think it must be some kind of a beer at the level of motor oil from Morsleudel or the iconic Speedway Stout.
You know what? When we brewed it the first time, and I'll put someone else's words in here so I don't get in trouble. Ryan Bry. Did you ever meet Ryan when he was here? He was a brewer we hired shortly, maybe a year after I took over. He's also from America. He was here for about 2 years.
No, I don't think I met him. I met the first Ryan.
He was, yeah, okay, that was first Ryan. He's second Ryan.
Yeah.
If you ever hear about second Ryan around Fanø Bryghus. He was here from like 17 to early 19. But he and I met at our first brewing job. Like, our first brewing job was in North Carolina at this small brewery in the mountains. And we connected there and just really hit it off, and we've become friends. When we left there, I went to a brewery in Kansas and became their lead production brewer. So a larger brewery. He went back to Chicago and worked for this little place called Goose Island. And he started up through there, just cleaning shit, working his way up. But he spent about a year and a half in their barrel program before moving into the cellar. And then he got burned out on that, and he was doing his European tour. And he came to Fanø, and I needed a brewer, and we talked a little bit about it. And he eventually came back to work at Fanø. He did about 2 years here. And what he said about Red Wedding was what he was like, it's very similar to Bourbon County. And he's like, the base beer for Bourbon County, there's a reason they don't release it. Like, it's not that interesting of a beer. But with aging and so what I think Red Wedding is as a base beer is it's a sturdy table for which to build on. And that's how I've always kind of thought of it. And maybe that's where a little bit of my reluctance to release the base beer and have people say, everyone's a critic kind of thing. I'll do it with the guys if it's a group effort, but until then, you just don't know what you get to see the tablecloth and all the dressing. You don't get to know what's underneath. But yeah, like, I always kind of think of it like that. Like, it doesn't need to be an amazing beer. It just needs to work well with and treat the barrels with respect, and treat the ingredients that you're going to be using for that release with a little bit of kindness and respect.
So it's kind of a canvas of the best quality to paint something on.
I think so, because like, you want the barrels to be able to speak a little bit, and you want, whatever you're doing, and that's in fruit beers, and if you're doing a fruited IPA, I tell you what, the most amazing IPA would probably get ruined by fruit. So don't make the most amazing IPA. Make the most amazing base beer for fruit to be added, so that everything can be in harmony. And maybe we get maybe we got lucky when we made a beer that like just really works well. It plays a good accompaniment, not lead guitar, but it can keep a beat, and it goes well with a lot of things. So I kind of view Red Wedding as that, and we're trying it with some other smaller batch stuff. If it works, you'll see it as Red Wedding. If it doesn't, then you'll never know. It'll come out as some other unique blend of things. So
yeah, spent motor oil.
Yeah, exactly. Something shotgun wedding. Shotgun powder.
Yeah. So remember to put in some green gunpowder tea or something if it's the shotgun wedding. Yeah.
You got to work the levels of it. You got to have it work on several levels if you're going to make a pun joke.
Yeah. Now, I think we have to say cheers again. It's such a great beer. We have to taste it again. Cheers.
Yes. I'm drinking mine out of a Net Holden Yule calendar mug.
Oh,
as you are when you drink imperial stouts, right? In Denmark.
Yeah, we do. Or I use the Spiegelau barrel-aged glass. Fits so good for this beer.
Yeah.
Mine looks almost the same, but it's Swedish and from Orrefors. But
so who's having the best glassware experience, do you think? You? Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
No, but actually, we have talked about this, and some Spiegelau guy from the US, he actually he let us down. He was promising to do an episode about glassware and what it meant for beer. Yeah. Does it mean something to beer? Now you're drinking it from this Danish beer mug.
Does glassware mean anything?
Yeah,
I think so. They got me early on that. Spiegelau was who got me too. I went to a kind of a beer tasting at Boulevard Brewing, where you kind of go through the glasses and you learn about the Pilsner glass, you learn about the IPA glass, and my favorite's the Globe. I'm just a big brandy snifter kind of Globe. Yeah.
I'm yours now.
Yeah, sure. Take off, man.
It's just people coming into Steve's office right now.
Yeah, just let me know. Tap room's closed, guys. Yeah, go home. Don't have to drink here, but you got to go home somewhere else. No, I do think it changes, like especially a good glass, like a thin glass that doesn't take too much temperature off a cold beer, or if you have a certain glass that you want to really like direct the nose of the beer, like to emphasize any kind of aromatics that you're pulling from it. I do believe that glassware has a huge place in beer enjoyment. That being said, 90% of the beer I drink at home is probably like a jar that pickles came in, and because it fits like 50 cl of Pilsner right in there, and then you're just done. And it doesn't have to be complicated. So I see both sides of that very shiny coin, and I think they both have value. But I do think you're probably having the best glassware experience as it comes to
and actually isn't it Hetty Topper, the alchemist? They say you have to drink it from the can, and it's an IPA.
Yeah, you know what I think about that? I think they know that at the time that they were releasing that beer, when that beer came out, beer was supposed to be the 3 C's, which is cold, crisp, and clear, and theirs was not, one of those things for sure. And so they were worried about people pouring in the glass and going, what the hell is this? So they said, keep it in the can. And I was like, that's smart. But
So
now the world has changed, but I think they could probably get away with letting it be in a glass.
This one is black, even though it's called red. So most people would say, just keep it in the bottle, because they say if they see a black beer, they say, I don't like that.
It's points off for a black beer. Yeah, for sure. It's not a beginner beer, I don't think. It's accessible from a barrel aging beer standpoint. I think there's harder beers to kind of wrap your head around, but it's definitely not like a entry level beginner. I think if you're just getting into barrel aged beers, get into the whiskey barrel aged beers, get into bourbon barrel aged beers, know what those are about, and then follow your nose as far as like if you enjoy red wine and stouts, if those are two things you like, then try it. If you don't like stouts and you don't like coffee, don't try a coffee. Like don't go into a coffee stout thinking, oh my god, this is going to be amazing, and then yeah.
But then again, you'll never know. Some years ago, my wife was mostly into easy drinking lagers and stuff like that, and then she tasted the Fanø Bryghus Gone Porto. That's a port wine barrel aged imperial stout, and then she was just, I think we found my new favorite beer, and then she's been into to like fruited Berliner Weisses for a while, and then she was with at the Strong Beer Festival and tasted Patrick at Pleasant Street's beers, and she was just, this is amazing.
Boy, he fusses over those things, doesn't he?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
So it's going from, I like my Berliner raspberry and blueberry stuff, and then
now she's in.
But she enjoys beer, but if she just has to have a beer pour, then it's got to be easy drinking and crisp and light.
When she likes those more complicated beers, can you go down the list of what's in them and say, well, you like this and you like this and you like this, so it makes sense that you like this crazy beer that you would never think you liked?
Exactly.
Or is it like, oh, I don't like coffee and I don't like blueberries, but this coffee blueberry stout is amazing?
Yeah, but she likes all those things separately. So why not when you combine them?
Yeah. I think that's what it is. It's you just got to connect the things you like to it, and then find those flavors.
But sometimes you see a beer, and then your thought could be, well, that's a home brewer that didn't stop in time. I remember Niels Kristian, I had an experience with Lille from France at the ølfestival in Copenhagen some years ago. They had like a Thai curry thing with lotus root and green curry paste and all that stuff. It's just, this is going to be terrible. And then when we tasted it, was just, okay, that actually worked really well.
And tell you what, it seems like a lot of these smaller breweries are writers without editors kind of thing. Like you need someone to kind of say, okay, you're not just brewing for you. It's great if you are, and if you get away with it, man, congratulations. But you always got to be thinking about someone else is drinking, 100% of your beer. So you got to make it for other people too, and you got to make it accessible. So I do see these a little crazier beers. I'm getting that age where I'm like, wow, lager would be nice, Well, you got to throw everything in there. Just make a lot.
I constantly see myself thinking, why is this beer so complicated? But I like them so much. But every now and then I just have to go to have a Pilsner, some kind of a lager. And maybe 1 or 2 years ago, that wasn't the thing I was looking for. But I'm doing that now.
No, those lawnmower beers they're just tastier and tastier every year. So
they are.
Yeah,
they are. We have this question from one of our listeners. He's called Niels Let. He's asking for you, Steve. Have you considered doing a double mash instead of, or as an alternative to the lactose in this wedding series?
That is a great question. We already do a double mash with this beer. So originally we did a triple mash with this beer when we were still kind of figuring out the system. And you're paused, so I'm a little. Is he paused on your screen too?
No.
Oh, he's okay. All right. I'll just jump back into it. No, we do a double mash already. We our brew house is 10 hectoliters. The maximum amount of grain that we can really put into a mash is 300 kilo. We're at 300 plus on this one per mash. We draw off about half the wort from each mash, and we boil down 15 to 16 hectoliters of total volume down to 11 hectoliters. So we had about a 6-hour boil per turn on red wedding. So we do that. We'll do that on Monday. We do it on Tuesday. That fills the tank. We have to do that 8 times to get red wedding, white wedding, black wedding in a year. So if you do the math, that's nearly a month of brewing just to get those 3 beers released in an orderly fashion. Hence why they're going to be a little late this year. But we if there is something I view the lactose actually as more of a helpful ingredient and like a change that we could not achieve through long boils, sugar rests. It's what we want in that recipe, and that's why we use it. We have a dextrose note on there that if we're low, we can use dextrose, but we've more or less just taken that out over the last few years and just dedicated ourselves to these long boils so that we get more complex sugar chains. But the lactose is something that I think just actually works with this beer. So again, it's like 3% of our grain bill. I know it's an allergen for some people, which is a bummer. But it's not something I think after 7 years we're just going to say, maybe we can do without it and make that change.
But you actually do the double mash as he suggested. So he just have to live with both lactose and double mash.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Well, I mean, we're shooting for our starting Plato is like 29, 30 Plato on this beer. So we got to get it up there somehow. And it's already an 18-hour process. And we could boil an hour longer and see if it finished out any different or if there was any kind of flavor. But it's a big ship to turn around. It's a year to find out if what we did was right or wrong. And by the time we find out, there's not much we can do to change anything. So,
but some wise guy, I think it was some kind of a football guy, once said, "Never change a winning team." So why change this one? But actually, we talked about Morsløgl before, and they changed from doing all their pastry stouts with lactose, and they turned into not only double mashes but also triple mashes for many of them to have this very rich texture they have in their beers. So maybe that's why he asked, because that has been kind of a debate in Denmark if it was better without the lactose.
I'll tell you what, I would think about it, and maybe we'll do a little test on our own if we ever get the time to brew a batch without the lactose, and then see if we can even tell. And if it's something that we don't need, maybe we get rid of it. But like you said, if the team ain't broke, don't fix it. Kind of mindset over here. We got enough things that we're fixing that are broke. To come in on Red Wedding and say we need to rework it, guys. I don't know if I can sell that one.
No, I haven't got a problem with lactose, and it's just something some people talk about. And
what is the hang up with that? I don't know. I guess I don't know the dialogue. I don't know where people are at, where they're because I do see the hate. I do see like lactose, and I'm like, oh, why?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if you find out, let me know.
Yeah. Will do.
Maybe it's because it doesn't matter to me if there's lactose or not. If it's a great beer.
Yeah, I think there are really. If lactose is overly used, I think it gets very cloying. Yeah. Or it has this very mouth coating feel to it. That you can just tell it's okay. He's upwards, and he's gone to 15% or something like that. It's too much lactose. But in moderation, I have no issue with lactose IPAs. With whatever you want to do. If you want to add a little body, I mean, it's a tool for that. Yeah. I'm sure there are ways that you can crack the code with mash temperatures and boils and all that. But
I think Morsløgl, when I was there in October, they also said, I think they said they use molasses maybe also for some kind of a body feel.
Or just a separate sugar with like some non-refinable. Yeah. I mean, that's good for them. I mean, they found another way to do it.
And I imagine that would do something to the final brew as well. You brew in a different vessel, or your equipment is different. We talked to Tim in Aalborg at the Bad Seed Beer Fest, and he said our equipment is not built for IPAs, for instance, and we're just figuring out how to do it.
We would brew beers. At my previous brewery, there were tanks that the beer would taste different coming out of. You could brew the same beer, and depending on the batch size or even the tank, because we had real fat tanks and then we had tall, thin ones. And because of how the yeast cycles and you get these circular whirlpool kind of effects when yeast is really going, that changes if it's a tall, narrow tank or if it's a wide, flat tank. And so these beers would ferment differently. So, I mean, there's no shortage of things that are just affecting your beer that you just don't really see or think about. It's changing the final product. And so those active changes that you make, those are ones I'm afraid of. I already got all these passive things I'm trying not to think about. But I think I view it as an ingredient. It's just like, the coffee. Have you thought about brewing it with just coffee malt? Well, yeah, but it has coffee in it. So that's part of the recipe.
Dare we ask which kind of coffee it is?
It is. We do whole beans now in the holding, but we actually use we use 800 grams of instant pre-made instant coffee in the boil just to be done with it, and then we hang it on coffee. Like, we got these whole beans. I think we've changed every year on the whole bean side of it. Like, we had espresso something from Africa one year, and we couldn't tell the difference.
Oh.
So we kind of went back to Danish whole bean coffee. It's organic, I can tell you that. It's whatever our bar manager is buying at the time.
It's actually quite fun. I talked to one of your colleagues who are doing a coffee milk stout. It's Kristian at Bornholm.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about the Amme stout, and he said, "Yeah, we tried to brew it with the gourmet coffee beans from the local coffee roasters, but it's better with the Nescoffee."
That's the one we use. Yeah, that's what we typically use. It's and that's something from original Ryan 1. He did trials on it when he was here, and he did like 4 or 5 different roasted coffee. Like, he made ground the beans and everything, and then he had the instant coffee, and it was instant coffee we hand down. So that's what's in our Christmas beer too. We've tried a couple with regular, like our coffee punch. We tried that with real coffee, and we were like, it doesn't communicate the same way. So it's hard to be like, but it's real, but it doesn't communicate the same way. So we go with what communicates what we're trying to put forward. Yeah.
So now we have been talking quite a bit about the red wedding and the wedding series. What about barley wines? You have done quite a few barley wines, and I always say that you say that this is maybe not the hardest barrel-aged stout to go to, but I always tell people, if they want to go into barley wine, go for the bourbon barrel-aged ones before the regular ones, because they're easier drinking.
I agree with you, and we did so we've done if you don't know Fanø Brewery or Fanø Bryghus, we've done a few barley wines. The ones we keep in stock now, we do ones that's an American style called Swen Forkbeard. We do Harold Bluetooth, which is I don't know, it's a Quake barley wine that we kind of we did more or less. I was inspired by, I was reading Lars's book, getting more and more interested in Quake yeast, and saw his presentation at the European Brewers Congress this last year, and to me, like, all he was saying about Quake and its quick acting, high alcohol tolerance kind of stuff, and it had been used in IPAs so much, but to me, it like screamed barley wine. And so we did Harold Bluetooth, and it left it like, it's a 10.5%. It's got this nice sweetness to it. We use Golden Promise. To me, that's where barley wine should be. I came up from a time when we didn't have pastry stouts. I talked about this with one of my brewers who's like 20. And he's like all about the pastry stouts and the pastry sours and stuff. I was like, man, when I was your age, you either had to have Belgian quadruples or barley wines. Like, that was all you got. Or you had like Rasputin. There was just no pastry stouts or anything like that. And so you had to, everyone just fell in love with barley wines at some point. And so you had like Bigfoot barley wine or Old Foghorn from Anchor Steam. And those are these really kind of nice, sweet, but also American hops. And so those have very much influenced the barley wines that we've made so far and that we kind of continue to make. We did the one departure from that was probably when Patrick came. We talked a lot about barley wines and we aged the one in Olmegak, and we put in some well, what was it, toasted syrup or something. It really darkened it up. So we did Promises Kept and Promises Made series. We have barrel aged versions of all of our barley wines coming out this year. So you'll have the American style barley wine. The Swen Fork beer is going to come out in bourbon barrels. We have the Harold Bluetooth in Stouning whiskey barrels. And then we'll be doing another barley wine, which it's going to be in 750, a little bit bigger formats. But we'll be doing another barley wine for the Manu stores. And so we'll be releasing that here in the fall. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that. If I'm not supposed to say that, ignore that. But we'll have a barley wine there in the fall. I don't know. So, but we're going to barrel age some of that too, and then we'll see how that comes out in the maybe early to mid next year. But we're brewing that tomorrow. That's the one we're brewing tomorrow. So.
It sounds like you have something exciting going on for tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm excited. Well, it's the only I love Golden Promise, and I never get to brew with it because we just don't. It's not in our core range anywhere. It's a whole different supplier. It has to do with just being lazy, I suppose. But I love ordering a full pallet of it and just using a full freaking pallet of Golden Promise in a barley wine, and then it just has this beautiful malt profile that none of our other beers have. Which is just this nice kind of little break. But when I got married, my wife had a rule. It was no barley wine, no mead at the wedding, because she knew that the night would just end too quickly for me because I just love barley wine a little bit too much. She's a smart woman.
So have you considered turning this strong beer festival into a barley wine festival?
I would like to see more barley wines at the festival. Yeah. Like it's all Imperial Stouts and triple IPAs, which is fine. I'm not complaining.
No,
but show me your barley wines. Show me where your barley wines.
Yeah. That's a challenge for the other brewers.
Yeah. Maybe do a barley wine competition at the festival.
Well, I tell you what, I think we're in early talks, but I think the beer bloggers are going to be more involved next year. We missed you guys this year, I think, and we're going to try to set up a podcast corner or something, and we're going to try and talk you guys into. We need a group that's in charge of giving out awards or something. So best in barley wine, best
of show.
That kind of thing. Like, come up with give me some awards to hand out to people. People love awards. Why Untapped? They gave out awards and everyone freaked out. Everyone was like,
why don't you just have... Yeah, but you can give the award. You can have a Steve.
Yeah, the Stevesies.
Stevesies.
That's what Denmark was waiting for. The Stevesies. Yeah. That's what everyone needs.
Yeah, yep. I just had some other word in mind, but I wouldn't say that on the podcast. No, but you also recently you did this, but you did this. Was it called? It was this sour beer that was at the festival. Is that a new thing for you to do sour beers?
I tell you what, we've done a few, and these pastry sours that are a little stronger. I really enjoy them. They're really good. They're a nightmare to get into your production schedule because we do kettle sour for the most part. And so it's tying up you gotta clean your kettle beforehand. Then it's got to sit for, 48 hours. And we produce a lot of beer for a 10 hectoliter system. So that we work that system. So not shutting it down, but putting something in it and not being able to run it for that amount of time is a little bit of a headache. So I don't know how many sours we're going to get in this year. But yeah, like I want to brew more sours. So we'll try and find some spots for them. And I think what we'll do is mostly those stronger pastry sours. I really enjoy those. If we can get 1 to 2 of those every year, man, that would be fun.
What about using what's it called, the yeast, the Philly sour? What's it called?
Philly sour. We've used that. We had a mixed result on Philly sour. We've used. What are we doing right now? We're using Planetarium kettle sour, or safe sour. Who does that? It's the same people that do Philly sour, but it's their safe sour pitch for the kettle, and that's 24, 36 hours, and you can boil it and kick it out, and then go from there. But our problem is all the sours we've released so far have been collaborations, I think, and so we either need to come up with a new one or get those breweries back in or something. So I hate brewing. I don't like taking a beer out of a collaboration and just running with it that much. No. I want people involved to continue kind of celebrate that relationship. And so I do think maybe there's a core beer somewhere in there, but that's also introducing, like, again, it's just an equipment thing. So we need a souring tank once we find a time for a souring tank where we can bring it back in and boil it and then get on with our lives, because I don't want to do any cross-contamination.
No.
Kind of fun. Everything's sour now.
We wouldn't want you to tie up a tank for 48 hours and have thirsty Germans for a week in the summer.
No. See? No. Gotta get those Kolsch's. Gotta turn those Kolsch's for the Germans.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. So, Anders, are you having any questions that you haven't asked?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was just lingering about the Golden Promise malts, because it's when I homebrew, and I'm definitely not doing that enough for the time being. But I really love the Golden Promise. But what does a malt like that mean? What do you get? Why do you love it so much?
For me, it has this back. Okay, so again, it goes back to my previous brewery at Free State. The only beer that we brewed Golden Promise with was our pale ale. That was my shift drink, man. That was after a hard day, drinking a cold Copperhead pale ale out on the back dock was heaven. And it was 80% Golden Promise. And it has this light caramel kind of quality to it. It's still so clean, but not too bready. Like, so it's just more of a clean caramel sweetness to it. And I just love how that translates into a barley wine. And I really want to do a pale ale with it here soon. It's just finding times and finding, people that want to brew something with Golden Promise. And I do recommend it. It's I think it's an heirloom variety. If you don't buy it, it's gonna phase out, but I don't think anytime soon. But Golden Promise from Simpson is where we get ours and buy it through the Baltic supply. I'm trying to get you guys some sponsors. Supply.
Yeah. But I brewed I think it was like a hoppy amberish thing with a handful of Vienna malt, or was it Munich, and perhaps a handful of biscuit or something like that. That was simple grain bill, but and then just hops. Not too bitter, but just hoppy amber thing. It's really easy drinking. Done it a couple of times, so just love the malt profile of that. I love. We brewed we got a new beer coming. We're doing an arts festival with Grisk, which is a tattoo art kind of collective up in Aarhus, and we did a festival with them right before COVID. We did the Grisk Arts Festival here on Fanø. COVID killed it. Bam! 3 years, nothing. So we're bringing it back, and we're gonna do this arts festival. We brewed a Czech style pils with Barber Rouge hops, and it's about 75% attenuated right now, and it smells so nice, and I'm so excited for it. And we're gonna do a outdoor
not quite as big as the Strong Beer Festival, but we're going to do kind of a lager fest where we've invited a few breweries to come and bring some lagers, and we're just going to sit out there and drink beer in the sun. So I'm really excited about drinking some dad beers, just survive.
Do you have a name for that beer?
Tentatively titled Grisk Pills.
Or sunscreen if you're drinking it in the sun.
Yeah. We got to kick some names around before the label goes. I think it's going to be either Grisk Fest or Grisk Pills or something related to the event, so that we want to do it every year. We're excited about it. It'll be a good summer early season festival for us, I think.
The last weekend of June.
Last weekend of June. It's June
28th and 9th.
You got all the information, man.
Yeah, just Google while you talked.
Oh, wow.
Google is your friend.
Yeah, Google is your friend. You know more than I do. Yeah. And I can tell you, it's a different lineup than like strong beer, because we wanted to find people that we really like their lager beer or known for their lager beer. So we have my favorite lager beer in Denmark, which is Aalbæk. So they're coming, which I'm so super excited about. And I don't care. Listeners, if you have an opinion about that, you're wrong, because this is the best lager beer in Denmark. And then we have Aarhus Bryghus is coming. Gamma's coming. We have like 2 or 3 other ones. And we're just going to sit out in the sun out here in the parking lot. We're going to set the stage up. We're going to have a whole bunch of art stuff. And it's beers and burgers. And it's going to be fantastic. So if you're on Fanø or you're around Fanø on June, what was it? June
28th and 29th.
28th and 29th. Come on down to the Lager Fest at Fanø Bryghus.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like something you would want to do.
It's going to be baller.
Yeah.
We haven't announced it yet, but by the time the episode comes out, you'll be able to find more information on it. That's how close it is to coming out. I feel... When does this episode come out?
It comes out on Thursday, and that must be... Today is the 20... we are recording Monday, so it's the 22nd today, and
we got 4 days to make an announcement. It might not be announced by Thursday, but if you've made it this far in the episode, I'm sure you'll be okay, and we'll have more information out very soon.
Yeah, Anders, do you have something from the calendar?
Yeah, is there actually information out?
Yeah, there's something on about the Gris Kunst Festival on your Facebook page 5 days ago.
But I don't think we mentioned the beer festival.
No. Just it's something about Grisk Tattoo Club, Grisk Aarhus, Frederik Thyssen, Galleri Grisk.
Those are the guys. And then we were posting about we were brewing the beer, and so the whole thing is going to be lager beers, and it's going to be. I think we're going to drink probably a lot more beer at this festival with fewer breweries and fewer people, just in the sun. Because it's always sunny. Right?
You heard it first in this podcast, Ord om Øl.
Here it is. Yeah, we're making the world announcement for the Lager Fest.
Yeah, we are. Steve, we can't do a hard talk because it's taken by someone else, but we can do a high ABV talk. So you have to answer fast for these following questions.
Okay, high ABV talk. Go. No thinking. Yeah. Word association?
Favorite beer style?
Pale ale.
Okay, favorite brewery except Fanø?
Danish or worldwide?
Brewery, worldwide.
Odell.
Okay.
Hey.
Yeah. Rauchbeer or pastry sour?
Because I can't think Rauch beer, but I do love pastry sour.
The brewer's answer.
The brewer's answer. I'll be excommunicated.
Water or beer?
Which one? What?
Water or beer?
Well, I mean, beer, because fish, tea, and water, right?
Yeah. Other stuff.
Yes, just boiled water.
So there was a reason you made beer in the old days, right?
Yeah, you couldn't drink the water, so yeah.
No, it would make you sick. Yeah. So that was high ABV talk.
That's it? Well, you heart got excited there. I didn't know what I was going to...
I'm always scared when Niels Kristian does that, and then suddenly he said, Anders, something, and it's just, hey, it wasn't supposed to be for me.
I have an additional question.
Yeah.
Yellow wedding or yellow wedding?
I might have to go with yellow wedding there. It just sounds so good.
Yeah, it does. It actually does, and we have talked about it for is it 2 years now or something?
You have been talking about it.
Niels Kristian's been talking about it. Yeah.
I think actually it was because Anders and I had an imperial stout that was aged on Sauterne barrels, and it was so freakingly delicious. Yeah, it was.
It was. Wasn't out. That was one of those. What's it called? It was at Fanø Strong Beer.
Pyhester, or what it's called.
Yeah.
Last year. That was a good beer.
The beer was called, was it Surmapat or something? It was triple barrel aged, I think. It was bourbon and Sauterne and something else.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a good beer. Yeah. I agree.
It was.
I'm not going to argue with you, but it was a decent beer.
Yeah. Okay. So, Steve, do you have anything that you feel you have to tell our listeners?
Just be kind to one another, and I do appreciate you coming out here. I think we probably covered enough for one episode, right? And we got a lot of fun things coming. Fanø Bryghus. If you haven't come, I always say everything we do is to kind of get people to come to the brewery. So if we're doing events, if we're traveling around, it's to show you what we're like. And so maybe you can book a trip, come to Fanø, visit the brewery. I promise you we won't disappoint. But that's really my pitch for Fanø. I don't make it off the island very much. So if you want to see more than my beautiful voice, you got to come to Fanø or the Locomotive Festival or one of 5 other festivals in Denmark that I go around to. But other than that, I just appreciate you guys taking the time to snakke det engelsk, med mig, and med mig? Is that right?
Yeah, med dig.
Oh, I got it right.
Med dig, præcis.
Yeah.
So hard lately, and it's so incremental. It's like one word I got right out of the whole thing.
It was
though, right?
Sorry. I always think when we have to do this in English, I always think, oh, you're doing this and you're drinking beer and your English is so bad.
I'll be better. See, I got the Mel thing right.
Yeah.
Come from me. I'm basically there.
I would just need that stupid rødgrød med, that stuff.
On the floor.
Exactly. Why do people do that?
How many people have asked you to say that?
I don't get it much anymore. That was an early one. That's a you've been here 2 years question. Now it's just why don't you speak Danish?
Yeah.
Because I'm good at my job.
But most Danes they do speak or at least understand most English.
You guys, once you can get a Dane to stop apologizing for their poor English, their English is very good. You guys, you always start with, I'm just my English is just, it's really not top notch. It's not very good. And you'll be like, shut up. You're so much. You sound like a native. Stop it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
we'll never say it again.
A native Dane. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I meant. A native Dane.
Yeah.
It always throws me off when the Danes have an English accent. And I'm like, oh yeah, because it's closer, I guess. You would have an English accent.
Yeah. But just that's my advice as a teacher. Just do the talking and don't think that much. Just do the talking.
All right, man. We'll do it in Danish next time.
Yeah.
Wait, it's taken how many years? We'll do it in Danish next time. I'll have 5. That buys me 5 years, something like that. How long have you guys been doing the podcast?
Oh, 3 years, something like 3.5 years, right? Yeah.
It's 28. We're gonna do it in Danish. Mark your calendar.
Deal.
We're the 7th or 8th of March 2025. We'll do it in Danish.
Oh shit!
Okay,
moving. All right. I gotta start the Duolingo up. Okay.
Yeah. You just have to practice every time you go and brew a beer. You have to have ormøl in.
I'll write a script. Yeah. We can talk about 5 things. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
So
we can we can talk about Pilsner and barley wine, because that's the same as well. Imperial Stout.
Tønder, øl. Yeah. We got that.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. This is gonna be perfect. I'm looking. You guys are gonna be at the Locomotive Festival.
I am.
You are.
I'm sadly I'm not, but I'm going to the MBCC instead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll hold my opinion.
I'll come by for the picture.
Party with the rest of us. Yes. Oh yeah. We gotta that picture's a tradition now.
Yeah.
But who's going to take the picture?
You gotta be careful. Don't grow, because if you get too tall, that picture won't work.
Yeah. No. I promise I only grow. I don't know, wider, not taller.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because I'm not getting any taller. That'd be ridiculous.
Then I'll have to get a bigger phone so we can do it in widescreen.
Not enough memory. Not enough memory for tall.
Yeah. But
okay.
How will you do the picture? I'm not there.
I don't know. I'll find someone.
Yeah, you'll find
someone in Denmark that knows how to run a phone, right?
Perhaps Steve brings someone. I don't know.
Yeah. So
we'll talk to
I only have like 2 sips in my glass left or something. So that's a sign of something.
That means the time is almost up.
Yeah, something like that. And we almost finish with Niels Kristian telling me, so this has been, det her har været. And then I'm going to say the name of the podcast, but perhaps Steve will, if he knows the name of the podcast in Danish.
And what is it? Word on ul? Om ul in.
Yeah, or øl. What's about beer?
Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah. That's worse than Rogom og Flor.
It is. So Anders, in a minute, Anders will say something like that this has been, and you will say the name of the podcast.
Oh, am I saying it right? Can I just make sure?
Yeah.
On ul.
Yeah.
Or øl.
Well, it says it in English. Literally, your thing says it in English, so it's throwing me off.
Yeah. But that's because if you have Aarhusen om øl and a word on beers and you combine them in Danish, then it must be orm.
Yeah, I'm getting like hot. I'm getting like stressed about.
But before
you record it and then it's wrong. And
wrong. But before I'm gonna ask you to say something, then I'll say, remember, and I'm gonna say this in Danish, husk at følge podcasten på sociale medier, abonnere på den på jeres favorit podcast tjeneste, like, synes om, anmeld godt, alle de her ting, og så skal jeg jo sige, this was
Ord om ul.